Yes. Good morning, students. I welcome you all for the ninth session of software testing. So we'll discuss or the recap the things what we discussed in the last class. And before that, so here again we're going to discuss in today's classes testing phases as we discussed. Just again we'll recap the things and then we'll go to other topics. There. What are the testing phases? V model that as we discussed yesterday last class, testing and life cycle models. Today we'll discuss testing and life cycle models, testing the system and different testing strategies are there. So yes, yesterday we discussed that when the two testing phases are there, reactive and preventive testing. When the testing is started after the software is developed completely, it is called as reactive testing. When your software is ready, complete software is ready, you do testing, we call that as a reactive testing. And before the software is ready, we do testing while in the developing stage itself, we call that as a preventive testing, what you call. When the testing is started in the early phases of development, then it is called as preventive testing. Testing needs to be done on every work product that is produced during the development. So as you discussed yesterday, testing has to be done at every phase, requirement phase, design phase, coding phase, and so on. It should not be done at the end. It's better to do testing at the every phase so that you can develop a good quality product, what you can call it. A quality of a good software can be developed. Next, yesterday we discussed workflows such as SRS document and design document are tested through reviews and inspections. Testing the software is done through dynamic testing by executing the code. So yesterday we discussed this. The V model is operational business model, user requirement, SRS, design, and what you can call testing there is integration. This is your unit testing or component testing, integration testing, system testing, accept testing, and testing in the actual environment. Yes, this is the V model what we discussed yesterday. Yes, so you discussed this. V model shows the various developments phases and the testing phases in the software development process, and end user business operation needs are converted to user requirements. From user requirements, software requirement specification document is prepared. Then each unit or component is coded and tested. The components are integrated into modules, are tested. Module testing is done to check whether the design is correct or not. If after the modules are integrated, system testing is done. Then system testing is to ensure that the software is as per the SRS document. So you've seen this yesterday. Just will recap. After system testing, the software is tested by the customer, and this testing is called as acceptance testing. Acceptance testing is done to check whether the software meets the user requirements. After acceptance testing, the software is installed in the operational environment and tested. So these are the various phases in the V model. So that is what we call operational testing done. This testing is done to check whether the software meets all the business or operational needs of the user. The various levels of testing are shown as in the form of a V model as you discussed it. Yes. So that is what we discussed in the last class. That is about the V model. Now we are going to discuss about the different life cycle models. As you discussed in software engineering, there are software different life cycle models. Here also there are different life cycle models are there. We are going to discuss the same models what we discussed that. Yes. For projects in which the user requirements are not very clear, prototyping model is used. See, as we discussed, a waterfall model, prototype model, spiral model, then what else model you discussed? Time boxing model, and so on. Yes, we discussed that. So which models should be used for various projects? That is what we will discuss here. So for projects in which the user requirements are not very clear, prototyping model is used, what you can call it. Yes. So your user requirements are not clear. So instead of directly implementing the projects, you can go for a prototype. Why? Because your requirements are not clear. So based on the prototype, if it is successful or any modification has to be done, it can be done. Is it clear? So that is what we can do. We can use the prototyping model. Next, for research projects, the evolutionary development model is used. So research, whenever you're finding out the new things or new ideas or creative ideas, you can use what you can call evolutionary or iterative model can be used there. For projects involving a lot of risk is there. So spiral model can be used. Yes. So these are the various what you call life cycle models can be used. Then for projects involving innovation and strict deadlines, synchronize and stabilize model use. Some projects, your deadline is that. So within 3 months, I want the project. Yes. So you should complete within 3 months. There is no extension for that. So in such cases, you can use synchronize and stabilize model use. For commercial projects, the waterfall model is used. So commercially, the software what you call for development, we use for business purpose, commercial purpose, we use the commonly waterfall model as we have discussed in the software engineering in the last semester. Or discuss the waterfall model, we are going to use it. Yes. Yes. After the implementation stage, the yes, that is about your what you can call testing and life cycle models. What you call yes, fine. Yeah, commercial waterfall model is used. Next slide. Testing the system. After the implementation stage, the software has to be tested. When we are going to do testing after requirement analysis, for after designing, after implementation, then we do what you can testing. After the implementation stage, the software has to be tested. During development stage, unit and integration testing is done. So we know the developer is thorough with his knowledge, is written by him. So here he is going to do two types of testing. We call that as unit testing and integration testing, because he's familiar with the structure, he's familiar with the code, so he can do testing better, what you can call. So at the development stage itself, you're going to do unit and integration testing, whereas system testing and acceptance testing is done by what you can call the test engineer. After that, system testing has to be done. System testing is done using the SRS document. So we check whether the what you can call the based on the software requirement specification, all the specifications have been met or not. We're going to test it. That is, we are going to do in the case of system testing. System testing is done using the SRS document. What do you call? Yes, fine. Yes. The SRS document contains two sections. What are those? The two things are there in the SRS. What is it? Functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Yes, it contains two things, functional as well as non-functional requirements. So first we'll discuss what are the functionality. Functionality means what is the purpose? For what purpose you're developing the software? It may be banking purpose or reservation purpose or security or network and so on. What is the purpose? For what purpose? The functionality, what you call. So the SRS document contains two sections. One is functional requirements and next one is the non-functional requirement. First, functional requirements specify what the software does. So what is the purpose of software? You will be developing the software for reserving a ticket. You will be developing software to monitor the temperature of a room, or you will monitor what you can call manufacturing some particular products and so on. So what is the purpose? What the software has to do? That is what you call functional requirement. Again, the functionality differs from application to application. Yes, the functionality, the purpose differs from application to application. Functionality testing involves the testing the graphical user interface, GUI, what you call it. Yes, first functionality involves testing the graphical user, how it is interacting with the user and the client. Yes, you want the very familiar GUI, what you can call that. The customer should be very easy to place an order, book an order, or whatever he can do. You want to be very familiar. Yes, very easier one, what you can call that. Functional testing involves the testing the graphical user interface. Yes, next. Then what are the non-functional requirements? So non-functional requirements are classified into three types: product requirements, process requirements, and external requirements. So again, so we are in the what do you call testing, we are going to do two types of testing: functional and non-functional. Functional requirement is going to test what the software does, whereas non-functional requirements, we classify again into three types. What are the product requirements, process requirements, and external requirements? So now we'll discuss all these one by one. Yes, fine. First, yes, in the requirements engineering phase, the engineers will find out which of the non-functional requirements are applicable to the projects. So what you can call, as we discussed, there are three types. Again, in these three, there are subtypes are there. So in the particular product, a project or a software, which non-functional requirements are applicable? All may not be applicable for a particular project. Some non-functional requirements may be applicable. So which are applicable, only those requirements are being tested. So in the requirements engineering phase, the engineers will find out which of the non-functional requirements are applicable to the projects. So there are so many other non-functional. So we classify into three. Again, in three, there are sub non-functional requirements are there. So out of that, which are applicable for this particular project? Only those we are going to test it. Only those functional requirements are mentioned in the SRS. Yes. So the non-functional requirements which are applicable, only those are mentioned. Yes. Fine. Yes. The test engineers need to study the various non-functional requirements, test and write test case for each of these requirements. Whichever non-functional requirements are applicable for that particular project or a software, they need to write the test cases and test for that. Test and write test cases for each of these requirements. Test case is nothing but a set of values for a particular test. Like for example, you want to do addition, you want to test the addition operator is working or not. You need to enter values for addition. So that is one set of test case. Similarly, for subtraction, you want to test it, another set of test case. So similarly for multiplication, similarly for division. So each operation has got different test cases. So for addition, one set of test cases, subtraction, multiplication, and so on. So we need to test for 4 different operators. Same case here also, the test engineers, they need to test for all the, whichever the non-functional requirements which are applicable to that project, they should test, they should write the test and write the test cases for all these requirements. Which are these? We are going to discuss it here. It's first we classify them. Yes, non-functional requirements. So first one is product requirements. Under product requirements, again, there are 3: reliability, portability, and efficiency. So as I told, so all may not be applicable for a particular project. A few, for example, efficiency or reliability may be applicable. Again, the efficiency is classified into 2 types: performance and space. How much, within how much time it is going to give you the output. Like for example, if you go to ATM to withdraw the money, the ATM, your ATM machine should draw or dispense the money within maybe 30 seconds or maybe 1 minute maximum. If the ATM is taking more than 5 minutes, then the response time is very slow. You may not go to that ATM. So you may say that this ATM is not working or there's so much of time. So that is what we call response time. How much time it's going to take to perform a particular action, we call that as a performance. And throughput, output or throughput, how many number of outputs it can generate within a second, we call that as a throughput. So efficiency is classified into performance and space. Again, performance is classified into response time and throughput, and here space time. So under product requirements, there are 3 types. Yes, so all may applicable or all may not be applicable for the products. So these are the first type of non-functional requirements. Next, second type, just a minute. All of you, somebody go through these non-functional requirements.
Product requirement, reliability, portability, efficiency. Under efficiency, performance, in that response time, throughput, and space.
Yeah, that is the first one, non-functional requirement. Next, second one. So again, the second non-functional requirement is process requirement. So in the process requirement, again, there are 3 types. Delivery time, how much time you require to deliver the particular product. Yes, time, the schedule, how much you may take 3 months to develop the software or 4 months, or for example, you are placing the order online, you want to get a particular item. Yes, so it will take 3 days. They'll show the item will be delivered in 3 days or 5 days. That is what we call delivery time. And implementation requirements, how much time you require for implementation. Yes, as implementation, what are the requirements for implement? You may require some software, you may require some hardware, you may require internet, you may require some tools, and so on. And what are the standards you are going to follow? So process requirement includes 3 again requirements. The non-functional requirements are the delivery time, implementation requirements, and standards. Somebody read this second one.
Non-functional requirements, process requirements, delivery time, implementation requirements, standards.
The second type of non-functional requirement. Now the next one, third type of non-functional requirements are external requirements like safety of your product or safety of your software, privacy or security. Like for example, you're having login and username as a password. That is one way of providing a security. Or now we are getting OTP, one-time password for your transaction. That is one type of providing security. Yes. Or you may send a mail to get it verified. Privacy or security, interoperability. Your software should support or work in. Suppose you want to download on Windows 10, you want to work it on Linux. Your software should be ready. Interoperability. Ethical. Your software should support ethical rules or guidelines will be there, and your software should be a legal software. It should not be a illegal. So these are the external requirements: safety, privacy or security, interoperability, ethical, and legal. So these are the non-functional requirements. So we have discussed the three non-functional requirements. What is that? The product requirements, process requirements, and external requirements. So again, in each there are 3 or 4 types are there. All may be applicable for your project, or all may not be applicable. A few may be applicable. It is not necessary that all these type of non-functional requirements should be applicable for your project. Out of this, a few may be applicable. Which are applicable for you? Only those you need to test and write the test cases. That is what it says. Yes, these are the non-functional requirements. So somebody read this. What are the external requirements?
External requirements: safety, privacy or security, interoperability, ethical, and legal.
So these are the functional, non-functional requirements. So we need to do 2 types of testing. The functional testing and non-functional requirements are there. Functionality requirement tell what the software does, whereas non-functional requirements, there are 3 types. Product requirements, again in product requirements, reliability, portability, efficiency. Again in efficiency, performance and space. And performance, again we need to test response time and throughput. Then the second non-functional requirement is process requirements, which require where we need to test delivery time, implementation, and requirement standards. It's fine. Next. And the third one is external requirements, in which we need to test the parameters like safety, privacy or security, interoperability, ethical, and legal. What you call. Yes. So these are the non-functional requirements. Yes. Fine. So these are the things what we have discussed today. Now next we are going to discuss about the various testing strategies. So there are basically 2 types of testing. We call that as a static testing and dynamic testing. So as I told you, what is static testing? Can somebody tell me define? Yesterday I have given you definition. Static testing and dynamic testing. Can somebody define what do you mean by or define static testing?
Static testing is done manually.
Yeah, the testing which is done manually is called as static testing. Then what is dynamic testing?
Dynamic testing is done like Java or C, where you write a code and you get an output for that. It is executed.
And the testing done by executing a program, we call that as a dynamic testing. So without executing, we do testing, we call that as a static testing. And while executing the program and doing testing, we call that as a dynamic testing. What you can call it. Yes, is it clear? So these are the 2 types of testing. Yes, we shall discuss that. Yes, static testing. In static testing, the software is tested without executing it. See here. So it's what we do static. Static is nothing but fixed. Your code is there. Without executing, we check individually line by line. Manual testing also we can call that. In static testing, the software is tested without executing it. Static testing is done by manual code reviews and code inspections. Manual code reviews mean manually is given to the test engineer to check whether the code is right or not. And inspection, code inspection, checking the code or reviewing. One person will check, and again that code is checked by another person. We call that as a review. What you call. Once again, the paper, even in valuation also, for example, the valuer is going to check, he's going to value the paper, and that paper, whatever the value he has done, it is reviewed by somebody else, reviewer, what you call. Whatever the corrections he has done is right or not, it is checked by another person. We call that as a review. Same case here also, the code is being checked, and again it is being reviewed by somebody else. That is in the case of static testing. The programmer, along with other group members, go through the code and checks for any syntax and logical errors. Who is going to do it? The programmer, along with other group member, goes through the code and checks for any syntax and logical errors. He is going to check whether there are any syntax errors or logical errors which are possible from in his, which whatever he may know, is going to check it out. Yes, the code is checked to ensure that it implements all the requirements given in the SRS document. Also, you check that whether the requirements which were identified in the beginning of the phase are implemented or not. That is being checked here. Is it clear? Somebody read these points.
In static testing, the software is tested without executing it. Static Testing is done by manual code review and code inspection. The program, along with other group members, goes through the code and checks for the syntax and logical error. The code is checked to ensure that it implements all the requirements given in the SRS document.
Yes. So these are what you can call the static testing. It's fine. Next, what are you going to do? Code should have enough comments so that other engineers can easily understand the code for easy maintenance. So we always say that you should write more comments. Why? Your program is going to read by somebody else. It is going to pass so many what you call programmers, developers, or testers, or managers. So you have written the program. If you don't write comment, you may understand what is the logic there. So as your program is passing through so many hands, so naturally it's a good practice to use the comment so that others can understand what is the logic of the program. What is this? Why you use this variable I, J, K, for example, or for what purpose you use a for loop, or what is the purpose of a declaration. All those things you need to write. Who has written the program, when he has written, who is the author, what time, and so on. Everything should be there. So comments, the more the comments, the best is the program. Why? Because you will understand easily by others. Code, the first point what it says, code should have enough comments so that other engineers can easily understand the code for easy maintenance. That's what, for maintenance purpose, we require more comments. These code reviews are done on formally. This is called static testing or static analysis, whatever. So we're going to do formally, mean officially, you're going to assign some person to check the particular code. So he's going to check and submit the report. That is what you call formally. Informally? Yes, simply you're telling it is not official. Yes, that is what you call. Yes, this is called static testing or static analysis. This testing is generally done manually. Tools are available for static testing. So even static testing usually it is done manually. Even for static testing, there are some tools are available for doing the testing there. So that is about your static testing. Somebody read these points.
Code should have enough
Static
comments
testing.
so that other engineers can easily understand the code for easy maintenance. These code reviews are done on formally. This is called static testing or static analysis. This testing is generally done manually. Tools are available for static testing.
Yeah. So there are some tools available. You can use those tools for static testing, what I call this. Fine. Yes. So these are the things what we need to discuss in today's classes. So about dynamic testing and other things we'll discuss in the next class there. Any other things we need to discuss? Any doubts you have in today's class? Just we'll recap the things. So V model, which we have discussed yesterday, and again you discussed about testing and life cycles today. Yes. So we discussed this V model in the last class. Then today life cycle model, what we discussed. Yes. In which the user requirements are, yes, what you can call prototyping model. What you call the prototyping model is used here. For research project, the evaluation development model is used. For projects involving a lot of risk spiral model is used. Yes. Then for projects involving innovation, strict deadline, synchronize and stabilize model is used. For commercial project, the waterfall model is used. Yes. Then for testing, testing the system after the implementation stage, the software has to be tested during the development. Yes. Stage unit and integration testing is done. After that, system testing has to be done. System testing is done using SRS document. Yes. Fine. Then SRS document contains two sections, that is functional requirements and non-functional requirements. So functional requirement, we're going to test what the software has to, what the software does, and and also we test the geographical user interface. Whereas non-functional requirements are divided into three categories, where product requirements, process requirements, and external requirements. So again, the non-functional, we need not test all the parameters of non-functional requirement. The non-functional parameters which are applicable for that, we need to test it there. Yes. Then the test engineers need to write the test and write test cases for all of these requirements. Yes, fine. The non-functional requirements are product requirements, reliability, portability, and efficiency. These are the three. Again, in efficiency, performance, and space is there. And non-functional requirement, process requirements, so delivery time, implementation requirement, and standards. Then third one is external requirement, that is safety, privacy, interoperability, ethical and legal, what you can call. Yes. Yes. Yes, legal and ethical. Then next is about there are two types of testing, static testing and dynamic testing. Yes. Then static testing is doing manual code or review and code inspection. That is what you have seen. And the what you call code is checked to ensure all the requirements given in SRS document have been tested, and it has to be done formally. And the code should have many what you call comments. Yes, that is what it will help for easy maintenance. So we call this as static testing or static analysis. This is done manually, or there are some tools available for testing, what you can call. Yes. So these are the things what we need to discuss. So with this, we'll wind up the class for today's class. Then fine. Then thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.